Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the verdict as far as the Tosha Khana case is concerned, what ramifications it will have on the political process, if any, what kind of a legal battle can we expect on our hands as far as PTI is concerned and as far as the former Prime Minister's narrative is concerned. We'll be talking a little bit about that, and a little later on we'll also be talking about, of course, the government very last few days and what can we expect as far as the caretaker setup is concerned. Of course, there's a lot being said also as far as the census is concerned and what can we expect from the Election Commission with regard to the census, the government's narrative on that, the overall coalition, the amalgamation of many political parties, and where do they stand on this issue particularly. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Barrister Safiullah, who is a legal expert. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Agha, Iqrar, Haroon, who's a political analyst. Thank you for joining us today. We have with us Zulfikar Ali Bader, who's spokesperson of Chairman PPP, Bilawal, Bhutto, Zardari. Thank you for joining us. And Rafique Rajwana, who's former Governor Punjab, also, of course, PML-N. Thank you so much for being with us today. Agha sahab, like I said, the judgment itself, of course, the legal side of it, I'll ask Safiullah to elucidate on that. But overall, how do you look at the changing scenario at this time vis-a-vis the government? Very few days are left now. We've also had the Prime Minister categorically say that they will leave very soon and that the caretaker setup will ensue. Of course, things are not clear as far as the issue of census is concerned. How do you look at it now?
Thank you so much. I personally believe without the new delimitations and limitations of the new constituencies, we should not go in election, because even the last census was a little controversial for Sindh, particularly for MQM. And according to my understanding, there is a constitutional requirement. We have to go for election according to new census, and once we accepted the census, we have to go for the delimitation and limitation of the constituencies, and of course the seats will increase.
But do you think we'll talk about the placement of the seats and the ratio of it, but do you think there's overall agreement between the allied parties on this issue itself?
This is a very tricky question, because if you talk about the Pakistan People's Party, now Pakistan People's Party, which is of course the ruling party of Sindh, is saying today, I mean, Rahman Sahib said we should go to election immediately, I mean, as according to, without, by avoiding the census issue. But MQM had been asking this since last, you can say 2017.
So there seems to be a divergent opinion, and I think Zulfikar Sahib is going to elucidate on what the PPP stance on that is. I'll come back to you. Safiullah, let's talk about the Tosha Khana case. Overall, the verdict itself is concerned. How are you as a lawyer looking at it? Why do you think, it seems to be, is it a cause for celebration? How do you look at it?
Yes, so Mahrukh, I think two important factors have come out of this this judgment. That this is of course my own personal perspective on the matter. The first one is the fact that we now have had an order by the High Court of Islamabad that is consistent with previous judgments. The High Court of Islamabad passed an order that gives reference of the case of Nawaz Sharif in 2019 and also previously of Benazir Bhutto. So there is a legal consistency that we see that is being applied to Imran Khan, as was done in the previous two cases, and case references have been given in this order. Now, what is this order? That is what we have to see. So, Imran Khan, when faced with the Tosha Khana trial, continue to assail it on technical grounds. So first he took up a matter saying that some of the grounds that there were many, but some of the main ones that he contended were, one was that the court does not have the jurisdiction, one was that the person who signed the case against him did not have the authority. Another recently has been that the judge Bilawal is anti-PTI because and as evidence he put forward his Twitter account, and he gave reference to a Twitter account saying that you can see in the Twitter account that Bilawal is constantly posting against PTI. So these were some of the evidences that were given. The issue of staying this matter before the trial court was put before the trial court, dismissed there, put before the High Court, was dismissed there, and now has finally been dismissed today by the by the Pakistan Supreme Court. So that is now done and over with. The matter cannot be stayed. The Supreme Court said very clearly that this matter will continue. Now, what matter went to the High Court? The matters that went to the High Court were two issues. Four issues in total, but two that I would like to talk about. One was the issue of him not being given an opportunity to present his witnesses. And that opportunity has now been given by the Islamabad High Court. They have said that, fine, you may present any witnesses that you want in your case. There is a time limitation of 7 days in which you have to file a list of witnesses. And Chairman PTI did not utilize that time limit. I have myself personally experienced how courts do not let you file witness statements after 7 days after that. But however, an exception was created for him, and he was given an opportunity to go and present his case again. And this is the connected to the matter of maintainability, to which the Islamabad High Court said that it's too early for the trial court to decide the maintainability. So
the issue of maintainability and the issue of jurisdiction, the two issues.
The issue of witnesses. The issue of jurisdiction has been established by the Supreme Court. Now
let me come back to you.
Sorry, if I may, there's one last thing that I want to add here, which is extremely important, and that is the treatment of Judge Humayun Dilawar. So the High Court today determined that the screenshots that were presented by the Chairman PTI were all fake, false, and there was a thorough investigation done, that he has lied to the public, and anyone who continues to share those and continues to say that the judge was doing this is in fact to be proceeded against under criminal law. And the fact that this was a self-created Twitter page that was meant to lampoon and spread disinformation.
So it's all a lie, basically.
So it's all a lie, and that is very important.
Let me come back to you on that. I'm going to go to Rafique Rajwana Sahab. Rajwana Sahab, the PML-N at this time, as far as the issue of census is concerned, seems to, your stance, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the delimitation, the election should be on the new delimitation and, the corresponding increase in the seats. Am I right?
No, it's not this stance. It was just a discussion, and the matter has to be considered by the Council of Common Interest. Whatsoever they decide, then the matter will be looked into according to that decision. Otherwise, on 9th of August, the assemblies will be dissolved, and we are ready for the elections. We are not interested at all as a political party to delay the election. It should be held as per the schedule which will be given by the Election Commission of Pakistan, to be held within 90 days of the dissolution of assembly. As far as the question of census is concerned, at the cost of repetition, I would say that the Council of Common Interest has to be decided. If it is decided that the census should be certified and the delimitation should be done, then the question would be, two questions would arise. Number one, the delimitation, the new constituencies. The other would be whether by creating new constituencies, the number of seats have to be increased or the same has to be maintained. According to the new census, it is supposed to be increased if the seats are constituencies in the provincial assemblies as well as in the national assemblies are increased. Then we will have to do a constitutional amendment in the constitution. Maybe I think that it's Article 51, sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, if I am not wrong, that the number of seats of the assemblies are determined in that, of the National Assembly, province-wise, special interest and all that. Right. Otherwise, the provincial assemblies...
Let me interject. I understand, and I think you have explained it very aptly. But overall, what is the stance of the PML-N on this? Of course,
our stance is that within 90 days the election should be held. It should not be delayed.
Okay, but
as a political party.
On the census or delimitation, you're saying that it should be immaterial to that, or what would take precedence? The election time?
I think that it is very much material, but if the question of delay in the election, although the election is to be considered, then the question of census may be considered later in the next election. It should not be delayed, then so many ifs and buts would arise, and then the people will start talking that they are delaying. And the apprehensions, the rumors are there that the election would not be held if you go through the columns of the newspaper, if you go through the this talk on the television shows. So it is being apprehended that the election would not be held within 90 days. And we have a very bitter experience of 90 days in our Pakistan history. So I feel personally, as a student of politics, as a student of constitution and legal professional man, that it should not be delayed.
Okay,
Let the elected government come and should hold the fort, because we are facing a lot of complications, particularly the economic issues, and the international world would like to continue or would like to negotiate anything which we are planning or which the outgoing government has done within 15 months. They would prefer to go with the elected government, and the sooner it is elected, the better it will be in the interest of the country.
fair enough. Let me come back to you, Rajwana Sahab. I'm going to go to Zulfikar Ali Bader. Zulfikar Sahab, you heard what Rajwana Sahab categorically said. He said that as far as his party is concerned, the predominant consideration is timely election. Does the PPP support this stance, or does the PPP, where do you stand on the issue of delimitation as far as a political party?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Very much, Barrister Mahrukh, for inviting. Pakistan People's Party, right from the beginning, when this government took over about 16 months ago, so Mr. Bilawal, Bhutto, Zardari, Chairman, Pakistan People's Party, have been talking about this, that election should be held on time, not before time and not after once these assemblies complete their constitutional term. So once these assemblies complete their constitutional term, so election should be held. If they are dissolved before time, so there is a time for 90 days. That's constitutional, but we have been asking that election should be held as early as possible. It will be more better that if it happens, if these assemblies complete their constitutional term, and election should be held within 60 days. So Pakistan People's Party is very clear about it, that whatever happens, whether election happens in 60 days or within 90 days, it should be constitutional, and election should not be delayed for any reason whatsoever. So tomorrow there is a meeting for CCI, and our party representing by the Chief Minister Singh, and he is going to go and represent the in PPP in that meeting, and he have already stated that he is going to listen to the Prime Minister, and if all the reservations are addressed and he seems satisfied, then he'll vote in favor of whatever is presented in the meeting. So it depends on the situation at that time. I can't anticipate anything before what is going to happen.
Fair
But
enough. But Bader Sahab, what are the main reservations, if you don't mind, letting us cluing us in on those?
Reservation is that in case the census thing is approved and the election is being delayed.
I think I'll come back to you. Agha Sahab, you heard what Rajwana Sahab categorically he's saying, that if it's going to boil down to a delay, then we opt for going with the previous delimitation and moving forward. Do you think there's going to be, what do you anticipate as far as the Council of Common Interest is concerned between the political parties?
Look, tomorrow it will be clear. Everything will be clear. We can see what benefit JUI can get, or People's Party can get, or PML-N or other parties can get with new delimitations and increase of constituencies. That suits JUI, because the population wise KPK will have and Balochistan will have more seats now, and little bit slightly I think increase and would be in Sindh also. To my understanding, the elections without you can say vetting or approving census and limit and delimitation, it may not suit to PML-N. Because look, in Sindh, the supremacy of People's Party is intact. In JUI, I mean, getting ANP, JUI, and other, you can say, anti-PTI parties have no more space over there. In Punjab had not been in the hand of PML-N for a very long. So, increasing, you can say, seats of the other provinces and fluid position in Punjab, this may not, you can say, suit to PML. I can be wrong.
The political, okay, so you're saying politically it has to be what suits the political parties, but according to Rajwana Sahab, he's saying that for the PML-N, the primary consideration is going into timely elections. Let me come back to you. Safiullah, controversiality of it, legally speaking, do you think it's going to if we go with the old delimitation, leaving the political considerations aside?
Yeah, so just looking at it legally, the constitution speaks about time of the elections, it does not speak about census.
Okay.
And that's the only reason why we have this conversation going on in the first place. Otherwise, this conversation was, if it was to be looked at practically, this would not be one conversation that we'd be having. We'd just have elections that would be delayed at a proper time after census. The constitution is in fact the real reason why this is happening.
Okay.
But that said,
but you're saying the constitution doesn't primarily talk about any delimitation. It doesn't talk about
does not talk about censuses. Of course, the constitution just simply mentions
the 90-day period.
The term of one government followed by that the term of the caretaker government followed by elections. That's I feel this is one of those reasons and places where I feel that constitutional experts need to chime in, or maybe the Supreme Court itself needs to chime in. We of course have the literal written word, but the constitution is at the end of the day an agreement that was made between parties to serve Pakistan. It was not meant to be just read for the sake of being read.
But we
agreed that it's a written word, but what's the purpose of the written word if the purpose is not being accomplished? And so it is my personal opinion.
But is it not the grown norm, or is it not the if
is
you look
it the
at
grown norm? I wouldn't think that even the Supreme Court of Pakistan, when they were applying Kelson's theories, applied the Constitution of Pakistan as the grown norm. The grown norm of Pakistan very well may be, I mean, let's not talk about what the grown norm could be.
But overall, leaving the legal side of it aside for 1 second, don't you think that, do you think it will give rise to litigation or no?
It will most certainly give rise to litigation, no matter how we look at it. And there is nothing to be worried about when we say this, because this happens every year anyways. Every time there are elections, people challenge it. It's always, I've always maintained.
There's going to be some litigation anyway.
Under any circumstance, people are going to challenge it. And sorry, I just want to add one thing, Mahrukh. The funniest thing is, this constitution itself, by that standard, is an illegal constitution because it was made by a caretaker government. And that the very government that made it could not have made it per the constitution itself. So I think we have had a series of constitutional violations. Let's not pretend like we have a history that is uncheckered.
But in any case, as far as Punjab at this time is concerned, we have a caretaker government in place for much longer than 90 days.
Of course,
if
that's
we look
already
at that scenario.
That's already happened. We already have the example of KPK as well, and we've had it in the past as well. So this is not the first time this has happened. I think the reason why I am firmly of opinion that the new census should be used is, what is the fault of the youth? Over the last 6 years, millions of people have turned 18. Why should they be excluded from the national vote bank?
So you're saying in national interest, it should be interpreted in the light of...
As a matter of human rights, because as a citizen, it is the right of any 18-year-old right now to be able to vote, but the older census would not count him. And I think that's a problem.
That's a problem. But
I mean, by age, you can vote. So as a youth, the vote right of your vote is not being denied. Even census is not approved. The issue is the enhancement of constituencies.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So it matters to the political parties more than it matters to your,
Everybody can vote, which is who is 18 years of age.
Because that's Nadra, has all the requisite record. If you have an ID card and you're above 18, then of course. Rajwana sir, what about this? You're again talking. You yourself said that there is some speculation in the air. Do you think that the judgment today, as far as the Tosha Khana case itself is concerned, do you think that judgment, the decision, legally speaking, it might come soon? The elections also. Do you think overall, a certain political party, how do you look at their participation in the overall political process?
I personally feel that all the political parties should be given the level playing field to participate in the election, even if the PTI or any other party. Now, the PTI is trying to delay this case for one or the other reason, maybe on certain legal grounds, maybe on certain illogical grounds. That is, the case is pending in the courts. I would not like to comment upon that. So they are apprehending that before holding of the election.
Apprehensive of perhaps a verdict, an unfavorable verdict, and that might impact them going into elections?
Yes, maybe. But in any case, as far as the holding of the election is concerned, even somebody stands disqualified. For our sake, I will say that when Mr. Nawaz Sharif was illegally and unconstitutionally disqualified on a very minor issue. So the other man, Ms. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, was given the portfolio of Prime Minister. He was elected as the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and the Assembly continued and they completed its tenure. I would just say that when there was a vote of no confidence against Imran Khan Sahab, he would have sit in the Assembly and would have continued as leader of the opposition. Today the situation would have been different and he would not have preferred the agitation. Apart from that, as far as this Tosha Khana case is concerned,
that enormously.
As far as this case of Tosha Khana is concerned, I think that the accused party has their own case that they should have a right of fair trial under as ordained in the Constitution, Article 10A of the Constitution of Pakistan. But at the same moment, the court have to determine what a fair trial is to be given to an accused. Whether the fair trial means that it should be according to the whims and wishes of the accused, that how long he can continue and how long he can delay the trial. But at the same moment, if there are legal issues, there are issues to be decided first, then it should be decided first. So on both ways, I think that the judgment of Islamabad High Court today, which was, they have allowed one petition of question of maintainability, that whether this private complaint had to come through the magistrate after adopting the proceedings under section 202 CRPC, and then the magistrate, after recording the preliminary evidence, should have sent the complaint to the district judge. But according to my view, that is a special law under the election in which it has been mentioned it would directly go to the district, to the session judge. But in any case, then the question of producing the defense evidence. I personally feel that the list which has been given by the defense, by the PTI, by Mr. Imran Khan, the judge of the trial court has held that they are irrelevant witnesses. According to my humble view, even if they are irrelevant, they should be allowed to be produced. And their evidence, if it is to be considered irrelevant, it can be discarded and the judgment can be rendered. So I think that on this question, the notice has been issued by the Islamabad High Court to the other party. I think that they may hold, this is my assessment as a legal, as a student of law, that they may say that you summon these witnesses, record their evidence, and whatsoever the logical conclusion on that evidence is, whether it supports the accused or it does not support the accused, then decide the matter. And moreover, the question of maintainability has been again referred to the same court. Let's see what happens. But one thing is quite clear, that so many excuses are being created apart from some legal, as I have already said, to delay this trial for the reason that before the holding of the next election, Imran Khan is apprehending his disqualification. They should avoid it, and and the court should be stopped by delaying these things for one reason or the other. Otherwise, in criminal matters, approaching the Supreme Court, approaching the High Court for stay of the trial and all that, it is not appreciated by the courts at all.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Let me come back to you. Zulfikar Ali Bader Saab, overall, as far as the issue of delimitation and where the PPP stands on this, of course, it's part of, as far as the constitutional requirement, the 90 days is there. You are very much part of the government. You're very much part of the political process of the caretaker setup. if the elections are delayed, are you cognizant of, the political gain? Certainly, I think this is what we're also talking here as far as the PPP is concerned and what it would mean for them. Do you think that it's the environment at this time, the kind of controversiality this is giving rise to, it's enough to be able to carry that forward? Are you going to just leave it to the Election Commission to decide? Of course, the Council of Common Interest, we'll know tomorrow. But overall, what is the feel as far as the PPP is concerned?
You see, we are very clear on this thing that Election Commission is going to give the schedule of the elections, and elections are going to held within 90 days. In case if there is any anticipation or any rumors or anything comes up, which we are not aware of, then the party leadership will have to sit in and decide with the senior leadership of the party that what strategy adopted, what should be the next way of our way of action plan. So right now, we are much concerned, and we are very clear that elections are going to held on time, and we are not even focusing of any kind of rumors which is in the environment or created by the non-state actors from different sources. So we are very much sure and have that understanding from a region part and from party
Right.
that all of them are ready to the election within 90 days. So, because Pakistan is in under these atmosphere and under these environment, Pakistan and the people of Pakistan can be only brought out of these challenges once you go for the early elections and the next government and the next uh, prime minister and his team comes up and there is a new.
Like I said before, as far as the continuation or elongation of the 30-day period is concerned, that itself is happening as far as Punjab is concerned, as far as KP is concerned. So there is a precedent here clearly, whether a wanted one or unwanted one. I know that you wouldn't want to repeat it, but I'm saying that it's nevertheless something that is happening at this time. Let me come
You
back
see,
to that.
Pakistan People's Party was ready when election were announced and the High Court announced that election should be held within 90 days. And then the case went into the Supreme Court and we were waiting that some kind of verdict should be given for the election and it should be announced. But we were ready. I mean, this is not something that we never wanted.
As a political party, you're saying it has nothing to do with what's happening. You were ready. Agha sir, political scenario aside, economic scenario is also there. We are also looking at the Prime Minister being very active and inaugurating different development projects. What is your overall feel of the scenario? The political makeup at this time. Of course, the meeting is tomorrow, but overall, the Election Commission being one. The Council of Common Interest being one, the political parties together and the caretaker setup, which by the way is pretty mum, as to who and how it's going to be overall. There are speculations, but there's nothing, like other times things seem, there's quiet generally.
Absolutely, your questions are critical, and I will try to answer you within the parameters. If you talk about the economy of Pakistan, it had never been as you can say as disastrous that is today, but it had always been in a problem. So election had been done, had been held. So we should not fix economy with the situation until unless someone wants to delay them. First of all. Secondly, as People's Party,
Zulfikar Sahib.
Yes, Zulfikar Sahib is absolutely right. Pakistan People's Party will have and still don't have any problem for holding election even tomorrow. I told you, Pakistan People's Party is intact is, political supremacy in it.
But they've been trying to make inroads into interior
Punjab. The problem is, Punjab had not been under the grip of PML for long. And look, basically Punjab had been with PML-N, Sindh had been with the People's Party, KPK had been with the ANP and JUI, but the PTI, the PTI factor categorically changed first of all to KPK, then to Punjab. It didn't dent Sindh. People's Party had been there and is still there, and definitely they are very confident.
Right.
The lack of confidence, according to my understanding, lies with the party who are going to hold election in Punjab.
Safiullah, legally, do you think that, as far as the relevance of the cases against the former Prime Minister, the relevance of the cases, like the Tosha Khana case, do you feel like, as if the net is coming closer, the noose is getting tighter overall? What is your feel of the situation?
100%. I'm glad that you spoke my mind on the matter. It's become very obvious that with the passage of time, something or the other would happen. Tosha Khana is just one of the cases. We are expecting a result in the next 10 to 12 days, but if not Tosha Khana, there is the election funding case. If not the election funding case, there is the Malik Riaz Al Qadir Trust case. There are so very many cases all around him legally. And the funny thing is that the former Prime Minister tried escaping them by coming out, showing street power. Every time he had to go to the court, he'd come out, start screaming, randomly saying that there is injustice taking place. And now no one's coming out for him either. Now I see him going from court to court just like a normal person. Things have changed tremendously. I think he has also now figured out that there is nothing that he can do, and it's inevitable therefore that if not the Tosha Khana case, then some other case will have a verdict coming out against him that would disqualify him.
We're running out of time. I want to go to Rafique Saab if he's still with us. Rafique Saab, can you hear me?
Yes.
Rafique Saab, there is one last question. I'm running out of time, but there's a lot as far as the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab and his return is concerned. We saw that famous statement of the elections will happen when he will return. He will return before the 14th of August. Overall, what is the PML-N's, now narrative as far as the former Prime Minister's return is concerned? Because of course it is very much PML-N, it is very much his party, it is very much his leadership that, of course there's a clear party love for him, there's a vote bank for him, there's a, the people want to know.
First of all, I would like to clarify this thing that Punjab is very much in the political grip of the PML-N. It was and it is and it will be, inshallah, because the 2018 election, how much fingers have been raised and even how much the factual situation has come out. And the conclusions have come out that how that election was held and how the PML-N was put aside. It was pushed back.
Running out of time.
Yes, but as far as the arrival of Nawaz Sharif is concerned, according to my information, it has been decided and it will be coming very soon within this month of August.
Right. On that note, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, I'm completely out of time. Thank you for being with us. Barrister Safiullah Ghauri, Agha, Iqrar, Haroon Saab, Rafique Rajwana Saab, Zulfikar Ali Bader. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective. Of course, the Council of Common Interest meeting tomorrow will determine perhaps a clearer roadmap for the upcoming elections. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.